Hi everyone! So today we are talking viticulture, and especially I will focus on sustainable viticultures because it's something that is really important for us, for as consumer, but also for the industry, for the environment, and I think it's a topic that we need to talk about. As you know, several pests, diseases and hazards just attack the vines on a regular basis because vines are actually something that is really fragile and susceptible to lots of disease and pests and hazards. So they basically need help from the growers to grow healthy and also in a viable way commercially for the growers. I'm going to start with conventional viticultures just to set things up and make a little bit of history because I like that, as you probably know. So conventional viticultures has been used heavily since the 1950s. Actually, before that, you would have mostly use of copper and sulfur for pests and disease, and manure for the soil fertility. After World War II, growers needed to grow healthy vines, but on a much larger scale. So we just created new agrochemicals to be able to grow more vines, more grapes. Today, there are hundreds of different agrochemicals that are used on the vines and on the grapes. So the aim of these agrochemicals is basically to kill weeds, reduce pests and disease, prevent them, repel them, just avoid any hazards, pests and disease in the vines. So we are gonna basically use fungicides, herbicides, insecticides, soil fertility improvements, bird repellents, soil fumigants, insecticides, pesticides, you name it. The thing is that with a repeated use of these agrochemicals, you're just basically destroying the vines, the soils. They have also a very high level of toxicity, so it's varying according to the agrochemicals that you're using. From the late 20th centuries, we just realized that we are just damaging humans, animals, but also the planet and the environment. On top of that, with the repeated use of these products, the vines just became tolerant to them. You just have to apply more and more agrochemicals and just keep destroying the soils and the vines and the environment. So there have been a return to traditional methods and more environmentally friendly practices. The first level of sustainable viticultures is sustainable viticultures or integrated viticulture. It's been developed for 30 years by the International Organism of Biological Control, and it's based on integrated pest management. We're basically trying to control disease, pests, insects, weeds and vine disorders. In sustainable viticulture, it's possible to use agrochemical, but not routinely. You basically rather have to just monitor the vine, the weather, and the whole vineyard instead of applying chemicals. The aim is basically to anticipate any problem that might occur and try to apply agrochemicals only when you have a clear need to use them. You would basically have a greater impact when you do your applications, but as well fewer applications, so it's going to be better for the vines and the environment. A few examples of the practices would be just to basically increase biodiversity, import insect predators in the vineyards, try to manage the level of populations so that you have just enough to avoid pest and disease, but not that much to avoid damaging the grapes. And you would basically have to harmonize the site with the rootstock, the grape variety that you're using, and the practices, the training that you use on your vines. So, sustainable viticulture is mainly found in France, Switzerland and southern Germany for now. But the thing with this is that it's not a protected name, so you don't have actually a whole body controlling this. So you have no clear standards and it's according to the countries. Next level of sustainable viticultures will be organic viticulture. First aim will be to minimize environmental damages. We're going to do that by building and managing a great level of soil fertility, soil structure, coexist with nature, enhance biological cycles and maintain ecological diversity. So organic viticulture is more and more popular. You're going to find it mainly in Spain, France, and Italy, but it's growing everywhere. Most often in the New World, you would have grapes that are grown organically but not certified. Indeed, to have a certification, it's a long and demanding process. So that's why some will not have the certification, but they will do the practices anyway. And it's checked by the European Union, which makes 85% of organic vineyards in the world. So you would basically have to keep any financial and physical records of basically everything. 3-year plan to prove that you have a viable and sustainable way of farming organically. You would basically have one inspection per year just to make sure that you're following the standards. A few examples of practices would be to use organic residue, improve biodiversity another time, not allowed to use synthetic herbicides or pesticides. On the other hand, you can use Bordeaux mixture and sulfur. You're gonna play a lot on weather monitoring, but also on sexual confusion techniques to avoid having any pests in the vineyard. Central aim would be to have healthy grapes which are disease resistant. The plus side of organic viticulture is that it's high quality, it's rapidly expanding, so it's really required more and more by the consumers. You also have a good terroir expression. On the downside, it's that it's more expensive to produce because in general you would have lower yields, but more labor that is required because you have more work to do in the vineyards. Another thing is that some growers will use lots of sulfur and copper into the vineyards because they're not allowed to use synthetic chemicals. Sulfur and copper will just build up in the soils and damaging them in the end. And then the last level of sustainable viticulture will be biodynamic viticulture. So it's basically organic viticulture, but with a philosophy and a different cosmologic approach. It's based on the work of Rudolf Steiner and Maria Thun. It's aimed to develop a deep relationships with the environment. The aim is to produce healthy and balanced vines that can support them on their own and be able to defend themselves in the end. So it's not very a prescriptive way of farming your vines, it's more a holistic approach to it. You're just gonna do cultivations following the cosmic cycles, so basically the moon, the sun, and the stars. For example, in a ascending moon phase, you're just gonna have the sap that is quickly rising, so it's going to be great to take cuttings for your grafting. In a descending moon phase, it's going to be more root days, so you're basically going to want to plant or to prune your vines. Plants are very sensitive to the positions of the planet, so that's why you're going to do your interventions in the vineyard following this cycle. Growers will basically use biodynamic preparations to stimulate life and energy in the vines. So the two most famous preparations are going to be the 500 and the 501. So they have a code number because they were actually forbidden during the Third Reich in Germany. So that's why they used code names. So for the preparation 500, which is horn manure, you will basically have a cow dung that you will put into a cow horn. So the cow horn will be buried for whole winter. And then you're just going to dynamize the preparation. So it's basically horn content that's going to be stirred into water. It's going to create a vortex, and then you're just going to go the other way around. It's going to basically integrate the preparations into the water. So this water, then you're going to spray it into the vines 2 to 4 times a year. It's going to improve soil structure, soil life. So you're going to have deeper roots, stronger roots. Also better nutrient absorption and better drought resistance. Preparation 501 is horn silica. So you're going to be basically taking ground silica and put it into a cow horn. And then you're going to bury it, but during summer. You're going to dynamize it again and spray it to the vineyards 2 to 4 times a year. But this time you're going to spray it on the soils as well, but also directly on the vines and on the leaves. It's going to be helping them to have a better ripening period, better photosynthesis. It will also gonna give them strength versus pests and disease. So they're gonna be able to defend themselves more. Then you also have preparations 502 to 507, which are more compost that it's gonna be mixed with plants and herbs. So you're gonna find chamomile, dandelion, so yarrow, and they are gonna be made into teas. And then the growers are just gonna spray the tea directly onto the vines, and it's gonna help have a better organic matter decomposition. Bordeaux mixture and also sulfur are allowed into biodynamic viticulture, but it's gonna be maximum 3 kilos per hectare per year. So it's very low quantity. Control pests, you're gonna also be able to practice ashing. It's gonna be basically ashes of pests or animals that you're just gonna burn. And these ashes are gonna be put directly onto the vines, help them defend themselves to control pests better. The certifications for biodynamic farming is mainly known through Demeter certification body, but you would have also other ones. But Demeter is the most known, so it has international standards. It's based on organic principles, and you added the philosophic and cosmic way of thinking to it. So on the plus side, you will have healthier and more balanced, stronger vines. In the final wines, you will have a pure expression of terroir, and at the same time, you're respecting the planet, so that's pretty good. On the downside, it's that you will have even more monitoring in the vineyards than for organic viticulture. So you will require more labor, so it's going to be higher costs, and basically more expensive wines in the end as well. In the occurrence of extreme weather conditions or events, growers will just basically take the risk to lose the whole crop for the year, so it's really risky matter. Not to mention that you have to follow the lunar calendar, so you basically have to be very organized. There's also a quite skeptical public opinion about biodynamic farming for now. Organic farming is just starting to get understood a bit and requested by the consumers. So I'm figuring out that maybe it's gonna be the same for biodynamic farming in a few years. So I've taken here a calendar, lunar calendar, from Maison Case. So it's biodynamic farming. So you will basically have the fruit days. That's going to be best days for wine tasting, for example. Flower days, best for tasting the wines with flowery aromas. Leaf days, that's going to make the wine more supple and smoother tannins. You will have root days as well for structured and mineral wines. And finally, there's the lunar note, which is basically not a day for tasting because the wine will just appear slightly closed on those days. So there you have it. So there you have it, guys, for sustainable ways to farm the vines. It's a lot of information, but I find it quite fascinating. So I hope you're gonna be as fascinated as I am. And please let me know if you're just prone to requesting or wanting a wine that is organic or biodynamic, if you are familiar with these types of farming, if you want to know more. So I hope you've enjoyed these videos and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.